Today I'm going to be sharing with you my experience editing Mermaid Mysteries, the good, the bad, and everything else. Stay till the end of the video for exclusive bonus content of inside my book. It's going to be so much fun. Can't wait. So on this clipboard, I have my revising and editing that I did for Mermaid Mysteries. I'm going to go over two major categories of the editing, which is copy editing and developmental. So copy editing is going line by line, making sure everything makes sense. Developmental is the bigger picture in the story. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. There are 4 things that I caught while I was editing Mermaid Mysteries, and the one that I seemed to have trouble the most was wordy sentences. So I tend to write a lot, and every once in a while I can be writing like sentences that can be probably too long, or they might be wordy in a way that it makes sense to me but it might not make sense to someone else. And reading those sentences allowed me to be like, maybe I should like condense the sentence so it's more understandable, and it's all clarity purposes, and like maybe the next time I read it I might be a little confused. So yeah, and it's so funny because I caught that 17 times throughout my editing process. That leads me to the second common error: repetition of words. So there's like these certain words that I would repeat every sentence within that one paragraph, and it got really annoying very quickly, and I had to figure out how to rephrase it in a way or completely remove the word from the sentence, having the word once in the paragraph and all that. I had that multiple times throughout different chapters, so it wasn't just in one chapter, it was like spread around like different chapters, and that happened like almost 10 times. Coincidentally, this leads to word rephrasing. I did have to rephrase different words and say something different. So repetition of words and word rephrasing does go together, but I kind of say it's different in a way because sometimes I didn't repeat the word. Maybe it just really sounded weird. Like that's why all the words, like it's all wordy and confusing. Yeah, I might sound a little confusing, but this next one will not, because I actually made up my own term for this. So number 4 is drag on dialogue, and it's in the name. Drag on dialogue is dialogue that just drags on, or it goes for too long, or it sounds like an info dump. And writing it, you don't think it's a info dump until you reread it, and it's really good when you just separate yourself from the story for some time. I have put the story down for a few times for a number of weeks before I go back rereading it and actually taking the time to figure out what is going on with the story. I had a few incidences with that. The first one I had it was chapter 3. I was kind of struggling like getting on the point with the dialogue, and it was something. When I invented this, I guess, term dragon dialogue, it was in chapter 12, and I was like, man, this is just getting boring really quickly. And for me to realize that before even publishing the book or anything is very great. Looking at your writing early on and making that a habit. The next one I want to get to is developmental. So developmental is the bigger picture of the story. So this is more of the story structure and how the story goes. And as I was reading it, there were certain parts of the story, like small sections that really kind of made me cringe at times, and I was like, I don't really want to take this out, but I kind of had to. There were certain things that just completely takes the reader out of the story, so I removed it so it can flow better. And I have 5 things I want to talk about that. So number 1 was obvious telling. So obvious telling. So you heard the term "show don't tell." I don't necessarily follow that, but there were certain things in my book that were very obvious, and like I should have said that. My first example was in chapter 5. It was I wanted to hint of something that was going to happen not later on in the book, but the sequel, because Mermaid Mysteries is a book series. It's a book series. I have it done already, prepared. So chapter 5 hinted at the sequel, and I was making it very telling. How I made it less obvious was removing that particular word a couple times. So yeah. I also found obvious telling in chapter 7 and chapter 12 and chapter 13. A lot of it was in the beginning of the chapter, which was so crazy, and I couldn't even believe myself that in the very beginning of the chapter, and that's just crazy. The second developmental flaw that I had was some cheap scenes. So at the end of chapter 5, it felt more cheesy and like, yeah. The opening and closing of chapter 6 was cheap as well, because it was like basically simple dialogue. There wasn't much to it, and especially at the closing of chapter 6, there was like just 3 pieces of dialogue, and I was like, oh, okay. So I had to emphasize more about what the bigger picture, pretty much. And I did have to change a little bit in chapter 6 as well. Fun fact, chapter 6 was the chapter I added in things the most, and also it had the worst chapter opening. But now it's not a bad chapter opening. It's a lot better and less cringy. Number 3, certain dialogue and pieces of the narrative ruin the flow. And what I mean, there was like this paragraph, like, so you're reading, and you get to this paragraph, and all of a sudden it just throws you off. And I had that early on in chapter 3, and it was the character description, and it just didn't make sense, so I had to delete it. I did not want to delete it, but I had to in order to have the story flow much better, and it did. I did find other incidents of that as well, with dialogue. So chapter 2, I simplified a piece of dialogue. There's a very good reason why I did it. I did it again this past week as well. I've not only been editing the book for the past few weeks, I've been proofreading it as well. There were times in the book that the flow just was like slowing down too much, or it just completely throws you off. But I definitely fixed it, and it flows a lot better and smoother, and ooh, thank goodness, relief. So number 4, character tension. So I mean, my character tension is through like either the dialogue or the narrative. A lot of times it's through dialogue. So what the characters say, I had to kind of reword what they say, and also I oh yes, following that certain dialogue, I just have a little bit of something to add to the tension. With chapter 4, I have this thing that revealed so much, but I wanted to create tension between the characters, and yeah, and I wanted that to be saved for a later part of the story. And then chapter 8 was with a character that I added in, and I was like, it kind of felt all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I'm in. I wanted that character to feel unsure, and like, I am just in the middle of this, but I could easily just get right back out and do my own thing, but I need to do this. And number 5, I had to completely remove a scene from the last chapter. The reason why I did so was because it made the last chapter drag a lot longer than it needed, and I did not want that at all. And ending was long enough anyway, so I didn't want to prolong it. And funny to know, that was a scene that I added like last year, and I wasn't very happy of removing it completely. So I made a side document that had that scene in particular, and it's not gone forever. So if you made it till the end, I'm going to share with you some bonus content inside the book, and it's all about formatting. Hooray! Let me show you. Before I show you the updated format of sort of the manuscript, I do want to mention that I did change the spacing from double space to single space, and this is something I did not know until I watched a video about formatting, and you're not supposed to double space it. So I'm going to show you a before on the screen, and after is right. As you can see, it is single space and more traditional. And speaking of that, I am going to talk about the font. So the font did change to Georgia right there. And I also adjust the headers as well. So with this one, I'm going to put this as 75. So as you can see, I changed the first page completely. So the first page of each chapter does not have a header, or does it have a page number, as you can see. And then with this one, header, and then you got the page number there. I did that with each chapter, and it was quite stressful. It took me a couple hours to do it. Thank you for watching. Check out my short series called Talk Mermaid Mysteries, where you get glimpses of what Mermaid Mysteries is about, and stay tuned for more Mermaid Mystery updates. See you in the next video.